I had some brilliant doctors, so I don't want to go down the road of, I'm not anti-conventional medicine, but I had one who said to me, I think maybe you're just a bit sensitive because you're a woman.
What?
And I do remember occasionally just sitting down, sort of thinking to myself, like, am I going crazy?
What is functional medicine?
So it's all very interconnected. It's very around that functional medicine. It's got the lifestyle aspect in there as well. We mentioned the 4 lifestyle S's, but it's all about optimizing your energy, giving you that sort of vitality and longevity back.
You wrote a fantastic book. Tell us about it.
It's on Amazon. So it was a 3 times #1 Amazon bestseller, which is great.
Whoa, congratulations.
That's amazing. It's been shortlisted in the wellness and wellbeing category for the Business Book Awards. So the event is in September. So we'll see how it does. But being a finalist and shortlisted is amazing.
Is there sort of a simple piece of advice that you could say to everyone about their health? What would it be?
I would say don't wait until you're...
Have you ever felt lethargic, unwell, or run down? I'm sure you have. Has an instinct told you that whilst you're feeling quite poorly, it's just not right, and you're feeling in your gut or instinctively, this isn't going to pass? Have you thought maybe there's another possibility other than traditional doctors and forms of medicine? Well, today I welcome into the remote studio award-winning functional medicine consultant and acclaimed author of Optimal You, Nicole Goode. Nicole is also the host of her very own podcast called The Good Health Podcast, using her name as well as the acronym, the meaning for what it is. So if you're curious about functional medicine, stay tuned as we talk about and hear Nicole's expert advice and opinions on this fascinating and highly effective form of medicine. We'll also hear part of her story, including the reason why, after years of suffering herself, she started on her journey to becoming a highly respected, award-winning author and functional medicine consultant. As I ask my guest today, Nicole Goode, so what's your story? Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks very much for having me. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you here because I am curious. I am more than curious. And, we've got a fair bit to cover in this episode, haven't we?
Yes.
We have. We're going to dispel a few myths. We're going to answer a few questions. And I know a lot of people have fired into me before coming on the air. And I just want to start off with this, because when I came across functional medicine, I had to ask you, I had to do a bit of research. I had to read parts of your book. I had to get online. So let's help people. Let's ease that from them. Of course, we want them to read your book, but So I think many people listening may want to know, what is functional medicine? Can you explain it for us in a couple of sentences?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a huge topic area, but I think a really simple way of explaining it is this. If you've got a headache and you go to conventional medicine, they will give you a paracetamol that will numb the pain so that you don't feel like you've got a headache. And that's conventional medicine. So you get a drug or you get surgery and they deal with the symptom that you've got. Functional medicine, you come to us with a headache. And what we would say is, okay, why has this particular person got a headache? Have they got a hormonal imbalance? Have they got some nutrient deficiencies? Is there something going on in the gut? So we're looking at all the different aspects of what might be wrong for that person. There might be that there's 5 people in front of me who have all got exactly the same diagnosis, exactly the same condition, but the things that we would do with them might be completely different. Some of them might have some toxin overload. Some of them might have a mold toxicity. They might have hormonal imbalance. They might have nutrient deficiency. There might be problems with the gut, all different things. So we would deal with each person differently, not just based on the symptoms or the diagnosis. So it's what we call root cause medicine. So it's actually sort of digging down the opposite way. Rather than saying, what have you got? We're asking, why have you got it? So I think that's sort of a really simple way of sort of explaining it, is ask why instead of what. We're less concerned with what the diagnosis is and more concerned with actually why are you experiencing that problem. So I think that's the main sort of the big main difference. The other sort of differences are that it's a bit more proactive, a bit more preventative. So we jump in a bit earlier if we can. That's the ideal. And it's also person-centered. So it's about you being an active participant in your healthcare. So it's not go and get a drug or go and let the doctor do surgery on you. It's actually you are now going to take part in your own healthcare and your own journey. And they're really sort of the main differences between conventional and functional medicine.
What a great answer. What a great answer. And that sort of made me think so many questions coming off of that, but I'm not going to, because I know we're going to cover quite a bit here. So, all right then. So you've just kind of answered that next bit that I was coming to, which really is, how does it differ then from modern medicine? And can the two work in hand? Because you've said that, a pill is sort of, treating the immediate effect like a headache. It's taking the headache away and keeping it simple. Yeah. But it's a bit more complex. Can sort of, your practice, functional medicine and modern medicine, can they work hand in hand? Can they complement each other? Can they run alongside each other?
Yeah. And obviously the headache is a really great way of describing what functional medicine is, but it is obviously a very simplified version of most cases. People are not just coming with a headache.
No, there's quite complex issues you treat, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah. So absolutely. How does it differ? I think the main aim where we differ is probably that we want to jump in earlier. So when you go to get a diagnosis from the doctors, and you won't get treatment in conventional medicine until you've got a diagnosis. That's when they'll start to actually treat you, is when they've figured out what you've got, they give you a diagnosis, they'll start treatment. And the problem is, by the time you get to diagnosis, you've probably actually been ill for quite some time. So it's been going on for a period of time, and really functional medicine aims to jump in that period of time. So a little bit earlier, we're less concerned. We don't need you to tick all the boxes to reach that point of having a diagnosis. Actually, if you're experiencing a lot of these symptoms that people do experience for a long time, things like, you mentioned some of those things there at the beginning, sort of fatigue and brain fog, maybe just not quite feeling yourself. We can work on that to try and figure out what's going on and prevent you from reaching the point of diagnosis. That's the end. That's the big goal, is if we can stop people from getting there. The other area I think that we kind of have to mention is, obviously conventional medicine is built around acute care. So if you are having a heart attack, don't pick up the phone and ring me. Go to the hospital and go and see a doctor. It's like there's don't get on Nicole's website and think, when's the next appointment? I just collapse. But I get it.
Exactly. So conventional medicine is very much, and the structure of conventional medicine, particularly now, modern conventional medicine, is very much designed for that acute care. Even though they deal with chronic illnesses, the system itself was designed for acute care. Functional medicine system is designed for chronic care. So we're not designed. We don't deal with acute cases. We're dealing with chronic conditions, people living with things. So that's one of those sort of big differences. And the other part of the question, can they work hand in hand? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing for a patient is if we can get the two working hand in hand. And I work with some brilliant doctors.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that. And I just want to back up a little bit, because some people are going to think, may assume now, may sort of make a dangerous assumption. Right. So we've mentioned headaches. You deal with some pretty serious conditions, don't you? Yeah. Can you just, with that, obviously you can't relate to specific patients with confidentiality, but what are typical, we talk about brain fog there. So I'm surmising that's hormonal issues, perhaps for men and women. Yeah. What are some of the other issues as well around that, Nicole?
Yeah. I mean, I can talk to you about cases, as long as obviously we do that anonymously. I'm not going to give names out, but,
no.
I mean,
and is there a science behind functional medicine?
Yes,
it's not a woo woo, is it?
Absolutely. It's very much the opposite. It's very science led. So everything is. We don't like to recommend anything unless we have science and research backing it. All right. So sometimes people will come and sort of say, what do you think to this new therapy that's on social media? And we'll be like, well, we'll tell you when we've got the science. We want the science behind things before we'll make a decision. And obviously, you can't. Some things are not well researched, and this is sort of one of the sticky points around chronic health conditions, particularly in women, actually, because a lot of research historically has been done in men. and has not been done where, and I mean the participants of the trials are men.
Sure.
Going back. So a lot of the scientific research we have actually is in men, not in women. And it's changing now, which is a good thing. But that's sort of one of those things that's been a bit of a sticking point, because we actually haven't had all the answers necessarily that are quite right for women, especially around, as you mentioned, hormones. But yeah, it's very science led. It's very sort of scientific. And I think that is one of the, misconceptions that are around functional medicine is it one of these?
That's why I wanted to mention it.
Yeah.
It does. Some people think, oh no, that's all that. They're just, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's just not true.
It's just not true. It's completely science led. And I think the other thing as well, if we're sort of talking about the misconceptions, is it's not new either. I think, people sort of say, oh, well, this is the new medicine. It's actually not. If we take conventional medicine and go back in time, original conventional medicine was actually functional medicine. So they used to look at the whole body. We had whole body physicians that we still occasionally get the odd one, but you don't get many of them anymore. We have, ologists for every single area of the body, and they specialize and they're brilliant at what they do. But actually, if you go back, conventional medicine was whole body medicine. That's what they did. They used herbs. They used nutraceuticals. They did all the things. They used diet. Diet was a huge part of medicine if you go back in time.
Wow.
So actually, functional medicine probably predates conventional medicine in that perspective, because they didn't have the drugs and the surgeries that they can do now. So it's actually going back. It's actually not the new thing it's not the new kid on the block, like people sort of like to say it is. It's been around a lot longer than people realize. And the science that we dig into has been around a lot longer.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? Even though I always like to balance things on this show if I can, but people think that things like cold water therapy is quite new and everything. It actually isn't. It goes back a long way, and tribally, it's just that it wasn't just as the vagus nerve and the effect and everything else has been around for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So this show is called So What's Your Story? Nicole, you've got a story. Yeah. You are brilliant at what you do. You're highly regarded. You've got an award-winning book that's in a finalist shortlist, and we're going to talk about that later on. You've got some other stuff that you're doing. You're here, there, you're everywhere. You've got a podcast. You are the real deal. You're not. But there's a reason, isn't there?
There is. Yes.
And let's share that if you're okay. Yeah. Let's share that with the listeners. What happened to you?
Yeah.
And keep this, where you want to go with it, and withhold what you don't want to say, obviously.
No, I'm happy to talk about it.
I think a bit of an open book, aren't you? Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so it started for me, quite a long time ago now. We don't need to give away age, but a while ago. So it started for me when I was at school, actually. So I went to a very academic school, and there was quite a lot of, I was under quite a lot of stress at the time. It's the type of stress that, a lot of children at that age, so that's 16, 17, 18 with GCSEs, AS levels, A levels, all of that have. So it was nothing out of the ordinary. And
some of that self-imposed stress, fair to say?
Yes, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, or I'm trying to be a recovering perfectionist, but it doesn't always work. If it's in you, and it's hard to give up. I'm trying. But yes, I am a bit of a perfectionist. I'm not particularly competitive with other people, but I am competitive with myself. So I like to do well at things. I always have, even as a tiny child, I always wanted to be good and do well at things. And, so yeah, some self-imposed sort of stress on that front too. And I had that sort of stress picture that was definitely going on. Didn't really think anything of it at the time. I then I got Epstein-Barr virus, which is one of these viruses that many of us come into contact with. It lives on in our body for the rest of our lives. Probably 90%, I think it's over 90% actually, of the population have it in their system. So it's something that's very, very common. And it's the virus that causes glandular fever. And some people have it. They have, 2 weeks, they're ill. It's like a flu, and they get over it and they're fine. It will live on in the body, but they won't really ever know. It'll just be at sort of chronic low-lying levels. For me, it actually got into my nervous system. So it started attacking my nervous system, and I was really very poorly with it. I almost ended up deferring a year at school, but my school advised me, they said, you'll be fine, just do the exams. you'll be fine. They woke me up in a few of my exams because I fell asleep in a few of them, but it really impacted me very, very badly. I did get over it. I went off to university. I didn't really think that much of it, to be honest. It sort of all went to the back of my mind. I was moving on off to uni and everything was fine. And then I started to feel really ill. And I started with really bad fatigue. I had brain fog. I got another virus, which was just a flu-y type virus, probably like a fresh as flu type thing. And ended up just being really, really ill, getting significantly worse. Really bad brain fog, very, very fatigued, lots of neurological pain, lots of nerve pain. And when you just know something's not right, it was one of those, I was like, something's really wrong here. This is not just, I'm working hard and I'm tired. This was something else. And I started getting palpitations. So my heart was going very fast. Wow. And obviously I was 20, I think, at this point. And it's quite frightening. You're at 20 to think there's something wrong with your heart. It is quite scary. So I ended up going through the conventional medicine system. I was going around doctors. I got sent to various different cardiologists, all referred me on to the next one because they were like, oh no, there's nothing wrong in my area. So go and see so-and-so. Nothing wrong in that area. Go and see the next one. And then, so I got passed around a lot to a lot of doctors. And this is a story that I now see with the people my patients that I see in clinic. This is a story that comes up a lot, is passed around a lot of doctors. I was lucky enough to have private healthcare. So I actually went down to London to see doctors down there because I wasn't getting answers. And this went on for a long time. I actually ended up, they gave me heart surgery that it turned out I didn't need. So, which,
when you say a long time, I know the whole course of this was a very long time, wasn't it? But what are we talking now? We're going into weeks, months, longer?
No, this has been about 3 years by this point, and I'm still going around doctors. So this was a long time. The heart,
and even though you're private healthcare, so you're not being subjected to particularly long waiting time. So over 3 years, you're seeing a lot of different specialists. They're still coming back to, you know what, Nicole, or
I must have had 8 or 9 different diagnoses that all turned out to be wrong. So I didn't have any of those problems. But they all said, oh, we think, at one point they sort of said, oh, we think you might have a hole in your heart. We're going to do checks for that. We think they were just checking for everything. So there was lots of different sort of diagnoses that were coming up that were quite serious things. So it was quite, all quite scary at the time. And I didn't know anything about functional medicine at this time. So it was, and I was at university studying neuroscience. So I was very sort of science brained, and I was going on, I intended to go on and do medicine. That was always the plan. So I was very much sort of believed in the medical system, believed in conventional medicine. In the end, that journey with conventional medicine went on for about 15 years. So it was a long, long time. And at
this time, Nicole, sorry to keep stopping you. At this time, are you feeling less and less enthusiastic about a lot of things? Are you starting to fall into sort of a bit of a mental decline as well? Is the you mentioned tiredness and falling asleep. Is that getting worse? Is the whole thing building?
Yeah, the whole thing is getting worse. Nothing's getting better at this point. I actually ended up leaving university because I just couldn't keep going because I was just so ill. So I left for a while, and things just were getting worse and worse, with no real answers. And they were giving me various different, trying various different drugs, but nothing was helping. Just nothing worked. Gosh. And they didn't really know what was wrong either, which is it's disconcerting. You mentioned the sort of the mental side of it. And actually it is tough, it's tough not knowing what's wrong with you. And this is something that I talk to a lot of my patients about. By the time people find me, usually they have been ill for quite a while and they've been down that road. And a lot of the time people are very stressed with it, and stress makes everything worse anyway. We know that. But it's very stressful. It's stressful not knowing what's wrong. And it's stressful going around all the different doctors. I had some brilliant doctors. So I don't want to go down the road of, I'm not anti-conventional medicine. I think there's brilliant doctors out there. But I did also have some doctors who told me that I was maybe just having migraines. I was maybe just, hormonal. I had one who said to me, I think maybe you're just a bit sensitive because you're a woman. That didn't go down well.
Wow.
So, I did have the it's all in your head approach come back from people, from some doctors, but I had a lot of doctors who were brilliant. But you do get that. And I see patients have had that same story where they have really been made to feel like it's in their head and that actually they're going a little bit crazy. And I do remember occasionally just sitting down, sort of thinking to myself, like, am I going crazy? Do I really feel this ill? Because they can't find anything wrong.
You're having this sort of like double edge inside you that I don't feel right, but actually they're saying maybe, I don't know, was it all going on in that? So look, during this period, you've shared this with me off air. You're a self-confessed, you said it earlier, perfectionist. You started to also question whether medicine was your future because you'd had to step away from university. You were hoping to get back to that. Things weren't going well. So good old, smart old Nicole said, I know what, I'll just, I'll make this sound so light. I couldn't do it.
I know what's coming. So
you think, well, if I'm a doctor and I've got to do late hours, I may have to do shift patterns. That ain't going to work feeling like this. I know what. I trained to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And you did, didn't you?
Yes.
During this period, which is interesting because you've launched your own business. You said to me, it's sometimes useful to actually know the law and things, but it was a side swerve.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dismiss that. Talk about it if you can, if you're happy to share it with us again. But that to me in itself shows somebody's complete resilience and just determination that, okay, well, that might not work. So law then, that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
But, and we laugh about that.
Yeah.
But
and that really was because at the time, all I'd ever wanted to do was medicine. If you asked me at 8 what I wanted to do, it was medicine. So that had been the only thing ever on my radar. But it very quickly was becoming clear that, junior doctor hours, like you said, the shift patterns, working nights, that was not something that was going to be possible. It was not going to happen at that time. There was no way that was going to be an option for me. Like you said, I was like, okay, well, I've got to go and do something completely different. And I think I was upset that I couldn't do medicine. So I think maybe I walked away from science as well, because I felt, rather than being in something around it where I'll feel like, but I'm not doing medicine, I'll just go and do something completely different. And so that was where I ended up doing law. And this was not when I felt better. You're talking about resilience.
No.
I was not better at this point. I was 21 when I went to law school, and I was 20 when I went to law school, and at 21 was when I had the heart surgery that I didn't need. So I was still right in the depths of not being well, not feeling well. I was going faint in lectures. I was having to walk out of lectures and sit on the floor because I was passing out. I was not well. But I was also fed up of doing nothing, and I wanted to get back to work. I'd had 6 months out by that point. So, it's not that long in the grand scheme of things, but
yeah. And you did qualify as a lawyer, didn't you?
So I did the law degree, and I didn't go and work as a lawyer, but I did the law degree.
No, you didn't practice because, again, this scientific mind of yours started to kick in, and you're like, hang on a minute. And then you got your head in some more. You got some head into more books, didn't you?
Yeah. So I finished law school, and I was still not feeling well. Still was going around lots of doctors. Was still really on that path, and I thought, I'm going to just take a little bit more time out. That was the other thing, was I've got my degree behind me. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of time out. I'm going to try and get myself feeling better. And I think it was during that little bit of time off that I started reading the science again. And I think I needed the 3-year break, I think maybe, just because of what I was going through personally. But during that time off then, after finishing law, that was when I started saying, okay, so what can I actually do now to get myself feeling better? Because I'm not getting answers from the doctors. I'm not feeling better. I'd done neuroscience. So I knew how to read scientific papers. I knew how to read research. So I just started digging into the science, digging into the research, and started looking into things. And that was when I found functional medicine. And I started just doing research for my own health, not with the intention at this point of helping anybody else. This was just, how can I get myself feeling better so that I can do work again, get back to work and doing things and do what I want to do in my life, and not just work, but be able to go out. I mean, I was struggling to do anything at this point. So so that's when I started sort of reading into science again, found functional medicine, and started working on my own health. I was still going to the doctors. I carried on down that road, but started working on my own health with functional medicine. I didn't see anybody because back then there really weren't that many functional medicine practitioners around, particularly in the UK. So it was more just I was looking to America really and what they were doing, and started working on my own health and slowly started seeing improvements. And it was the first time now what must have been, we're about 8 years in now at this point. So, a long time. And for the first time in that time, I started feeling better. Gosh. And only small, it was small improvements. It wasn't like overnight, everything was as right as rain and I was great. But there were signs of small improvements. And to me, that was it. That was all I needed, because at this point, just that little bit of hope and a little bit of things are picking up and going in the right direction. I started to believe this can work. My body can start to heal. I can feel better. So I started on that sort of journey myself. And started working on that.
And that curiosity to this day has not left you, has it? You're looking at new things. And thank goodness, Nicole. I'm just going to say that, because look at how you are now and what gifts you have to give to other people through your own personal journey, but also through understanding that science at a really granular level. And hey, look, we're going to talk about your book later and everything else you're doing. That it's just. It's evidence that, hey, listen, look, and I need to add this. Nicole talks about back then falling asleep at an exam table and making allowances. I've met Nicole. I can tell you, she's a ball of energy. She has an abundance of vibrancy and positivity and energy and drive and, wow. What a transformation.
Yeah.
I didn't know you then, obviously, but I'm sure people who did would say you wouldn't recognize it.
Yeah, it's entirely different. I mean, I still have, so I have an autoimmune disease. That's what actually happened to me. And that's what this virus in the body triggered it was just the right environment. I had the genetics, I had the virus, I had the stress all at the same time. And it was enough to trigger an autoimmune disease. And that's what got diagnosed eventually, the 15 years later. And I still have that. Autoimmunity is not something, once you've got it, you have it for life. And I work with a lot of people with autoimmune disease now, or with lots of different autoimmune diseases. And there's over 100 autoimmune diseases. So there's lots of them out there now. They're the biggest chronic problem that we have. They're pretty much an epidemic. We've got a problem with autoimmune disease. And a lot of that is to do with diet and lifestyle and society and all of this.
It's almost as if you're reading my next question, because I was going to say this, that, obviously understand that you've explained it. Functional medicine looks at the root cause of the problem. Mm-hmm. But you've just said then we look at lifestyle, diet, alcohol consumption, maybe lots of stress, outside factors. So I'm answering this almost myself. You also look at lifestyle choices and everything around that.
Yeah, this is if I can reference the book, if that's okay. In the book I've got the 8 health pillars, which are all looking at a different area of health. So we're looking at brain health, we're looking at your adrenals, we're looking at your mitochondria, we're looking at the different health pillars. But there's also the 4 lifestyle S's, as I call them in the book. And this is stress, sleep, strength, and social. And all four
Wow.
of these things are really important. It's not, I think people come and they think I'm just going to tell them what to eat. It's about a lot more than that. And, managing your stress, but not just even emotional stress, but physical stress on the body as well. So stress is, your body doesn't differentiate. So your body doesn't say, oh, this is an emotional stressor or this is a physical stressor. It doesn't differentiate. A physical stress might be an injury or a surgery, or, you've had a fall, you've had an accident, anything that is a physical stressor. Your body will take that in exactly the same way as it does emotional stress. It can't tell the difference. So any stress on the body, it's really important that actually we build a resilient body that can handle stressors, because we can't get away from stress. We can't, there's certain things that we can reduce stress in our lives, but we're all going to come up against stress at some point. There are stresses.
So when people say, oh, I'm stressed, yeah. So in some cases, am I right in thinking then that some stresses, or unavoidably, as you say, we are going to have some form of stress in our life? Are some stresses, dare I say, kind of good for us, maybe?
Yeah, stress. We have a stress response for a reason. And our stress response is there. It's been there from caveman days. It's the fight or flight response. And it's there to protect us. And we need it. And some stress is good. If you get stress when if you step out in front of a car, your body will go into a stress response and it will help you to jump out of the way. It's a good thing, small amounts of stress. But the thing with stress is we want stress to shoot up, so it gets us out of danger. And then those stress levels should all come back down to normal very quickly. Right. That process happens very fast. But what's happened in society is we haven't changed. So we're genetically not much different to cavemen. Our genes don't change quickly.
Yep.
But our society and the world that we live in is rapidly changing at a huge rate, particularly more recent years. In the last 10 years, it's hugely different from.
Is that because of things like, before the internet, you could come home, you didn't have emails pinging at you, social media, WhatsApp, all the other things that can ping in at you?
Yeah.
Is that a contributor? So in other
absolutely.
words, screen.
If you think about, your grandparents, probably parents for a lot of people out there, they would come home from work, they would clock off at 5:30. They would probably, this is the social pillar coming in, they would probably go and have a drink with their friends at 5:30 on the way home from work. There would be a community. They would have family around them because, a lot of families lived together back then as well, less so now. We'd have that social time and they would switch off. They would literally clock off from work. Nobody could contact them to say, can you just do this? Or, nobody would email them. They wouldn't, even just the ping, they've proved that just the ping of an email on your phone is enough to set off your stress response. Even if you don't go and look at it. So you don't have to actually even go and look at the email. Just your phone.
You hear that, don't you? hear it in places. You hear that bing, bing. It's like, and
that's actually enough. That triggers
I turn my audio notifications off my phone. Yeah. Nothing pings.
No, I saw something actually the other day on social media, which I just thought was so true, because they said they said something around the lines of, we spent so long, we used to spend money like buying ringtones. When you used to buy like fun ringtones for your phone, I remember that. And they said, we used to spend money like buying ringtones for our phone. And then like for the last 5 years, my phone's been on silent. And it's like, it's true. It's like so many people now are just switching their phones permanently to silent because it is stress.
And I guess you spoke about sleep, because stress impacts sleep.
Yep.
Lack of sleep impacts so many areas. Our mental health, our physical health, our gut health. Wow.
Sleep is when your body repairs itself. So when your immune system will come out and work and mop everything up, mop up all the cells, a lot of cells that can turn cancerous or cause problems, we want them all mopped up. All of that immune system clearing itself all happens while you're asleep. And if you're not asleep, that's not happening. So it's really important. It's called autophagy. And if we're not doing that, we're not healing ourselves. So a really tolerant and really resilient immune system and really good sleep are absolutely vital to looking after your health. And actually one of the big causes of chronic illness. Stress is one of the biggest causes of chronic illness. And we're talking a lot there about those emotional stressors, but stress can be toxin load. And we're all coming into contact with more chemicals. It can be mold toxicities. They're all stresses on the body. All of those things stress out the body and cause that stress response. So we're coming up against a lot more that our, grandparents didn't come up against as well in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, this is so eye-opening for me, and I hope the listeners are really encapsulated by this, because it's like, my God, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, oh, wow, stress, it's not leaving me. I'm carrying it around for more than a few days, and then I'm not getting any sleep, and then I feel shit, and then I'm tired, so God, I mean,
yeah,
wow,
I mean, if I can just to look at a case study. I had a doctor that came into clinic, and she was a conventional medicine doctor. She worked in A&E, and she came to work with me in clinic, and she was getting on the path to getting a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. And she was really struggling. She knew she was stressed out. She's a doctor in the NHS. So, she was stressed out. She was working long hours. She'd been through the COVID pandemic. So, there was a lot going on. She was to get down the stairs, she was having to hold onto the rail and walk sideways. Now, this is someone who was in her 30s. So she's not old. She's not been doing medicine for all that long in the grand scheme of her whole life. And she just knew that there was something other than taking really strong anti-inflammatories and going down that path. She wanted to try and figure out what had caused this in her, because it wasn't normal for someone her age. When she came, obviously stress was part of that picture. So we knew that was one of the root causes. But we found she'd worked in A&E, so she'd been around people who were ill. We found a huge viral load in her. So she had about 4 or 5 different viruses that were all at very, very low levels. But just that addition of all of those things bubbling away under the surface were enough that they were actually causing an autoimmunity response in her. And she had all these, so she had fatigue, she had brain fog, she had this, what was coming out as looking like a rheumatoid arthritis. We worked on antiviral protocols. We got rid of got the viruses down in her body. You don't get them out because some of them are there for life, but we got them all down, all back into being in remission. She had a mold toxicity. We got that out of her body. We reduced the stress. We worked on stress management. And she sent me, it took a while. It was about 6 or 8 months later. She sent me a message, and she was on a hiking holiday with her friends, and she sent me a message from the top of where they'd hiked to, saying, with a picture saying, I'm up at the top and I'm walking fine, and I'm back hiking, and and it's great. And she was doing really well. And she didn't have rheumatoid arthritis. She had this buildup of stressors in the body that were holding her back and causing these vague symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, which are very common. They're some of the symptoms that we see very commonly.
Goodness me, you've actually silenced me, because I think of so many people that I know that say, I've got this, I've got that. It's just the way it is. I've just got it. I take these tablets. It's just the way it is. My goodness me, if you're listening, that's you. Woo! Go and buy Nicole's book and just start looking into this, because this is unbelievable. Thank you so much. I reckon we could talk for hours. So, look, so you said there, this is a lady who came into your practice, your clinic, 30 years of age. Obviously, there's outside factors with her career and everything else. But within 8 months, there's massive differences. So, is that a typical timeline? Somebody coming into you, and I know this is a very, very generic question. So, you're very bright. You'll answer this. But very generic question. Is there a typical timeline that patients can start to see differences? Yeah,
there's some things where we can see differences quicker. It's not it's never going to be as quick as conventional medicine, because we're not going to give you the magic pill that gets rid of the headache. It's not, that's not what we're doing. It is care that takes more time. I work, when it's the autoimmune diseases, the more where we've got a lot going on in the body, the minimum amount of time I work with somebody is 6 months. On some of the smaller, some of the gut health issues, some thyroid issues, things like that, I'll work with people for 3 months. So usually it's kind of...
You mentioned in your sort of overview, you need the patient to be working with you as in devoted to what they're doing. For example, if you're talking about a microbiome issue, I'm not a doctor, right? But I've had a few issues with my gut, ongoing actually. Maybe I should come in and see you. I know certain foods are just the enemy to me. They're the enemy. They're the enemy. And and I've had people who are in the know saying, Ian, if you switch to this, and it does, but every now and then I can't resist it.
Yeah.
I get, but what I'm alluding to here is you need that. You can't work your magic. I'm going to call it magic. Your science without the patient also saying, I'm committed.
Yeah. And that's one of the questions actually on the intake form. When people, so I do a free inquiry call with people where we can have a chat, because it's important that we're going to get on. It is going to be a journey that we're going to go on together, and I'm going to help you through. So I do an inquiry call. I have a chat with people before they decide to work with me. And one of the questions on the form before we have that call is, are you dedicated to working on your health? Are you ready to take these steps? Because if you're not, functional medicine is not for you. And it's because it won't work. It is something that you've got to get involved in. That doesn't mean that you need huge amounts of time. This lady that we were talking about, she carried on working as a doctor in the NHS. She didn't have much time. She was very busy. And I've worked with people who are athletes or who are actors and who are, singers, and they're traveling the world and they are busy people. So you don't need a huge amount of time. You've just got to be committed to doing it. And you've just got to take the steps and be part of the journey.
And I think, again, if we think about modern medicine, there's an escalation in this country of globally probably of diabetes. Yeah. I mean, so people pop a tablet and they think, well, that's it then. I'm all right now. Pop a tablet. Well, they're still leading the same unhealthy lifestyle. Yeah. Guess what? The diabetes doesn't actually go away. It gets worse.
Yeah, you're just masking it. And that's the difference, I think, with these chronic conditions, with conventional and functional medicine functional medicine, we're not going to mask anything. So, and I will always say to people, I'm not going to give you a quick win just so that I look good, because I'm not interested in how I look. I'm interested in what's best for you long term. And the best thing for you long term is to feel well and know how to manage your health. I think that's really important, particularly with people who do have a chronic condition. If you have a bit of a flare up, if you've got a toolbox of things that you say, well, okay, so I've had maybe you've had a little bit of a night out, you've drank a bit too much, you've eaten some things, you probably shouldn't have, and things like that, okay, fine. Everybody does it. And I always say, it's 80 rule, 80%, 80-20. If you can do things 80% of the time, don't worry about the other 20. We've all got to live as well. Because doing some of these fun things is part of that social picture as well, and that's important it's important for our health from a lifestyle perspective. So, do it 80% of the time, but you've got to be committed to that, and you've got to try and do it. But having a toolbox of things where if something flares up and you can sort of say, okay, so, I did this last night, but the next day you say, but I know what to do now. I now know what to do to or if you get a virus, you pick up a cold and you feel a bit worse, what to do. You've got some things in your toolbox that you can pull out and say, I know I'm going to take these supplements. I'm going to do this with my diet. I'm going to do this with my lifestyle. I know what I need to focus on. And you'll feel better much quicker. That's the key. So I think it's about educating people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowledge is power, but also empowerment is power.
Yeah.
Our own self-help. Look, there's been a lot of funny things said about functional medicine in the press, online, everywhere. In fact, some of it is a bit controversial. And one of those things is sort of, is it cure versus prevention? Is modern medicine better because of this? You yourself have spoken and debated some controversial things, Nicole. You're not scared of a bit of controversy when it comes to, dare I say, defending the benefit of functional medicine. So give us a couple of stories, give us a couple of examples where there's been something controversial said and the reality is.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on the one of that it's new, and it's really not new. And that is something that I will always defend, is that this is something that's been around for a lot longer than people realize. I think the other one is that it's not science led, and we are very much science based. We are reading. I mean, I'm reading research papers day in, day out. We're keeping up with the science. It's some people will. I think. Social media is one of these things. There's so many people out there now giving health advice. And I think this is where the controversy comes from. There are so many people out there. Everyone will give advice. And a lot of the people who are giving health advice are influencers, and they are not qualified for giving health advice. And there are a lot of people. So I can see where the controversy has come from, because there are an awful lot of people who are not staying in the lane and who are giving health advice out in areas that they are not qualified in. And this happens even crossing over with different health practitioners. You'll get personal trainers who are giving nutrition advice, and there's different, and I'm not picking on personal trainers because it happens in lots of different areas, but there are personal trainers but it happens, and people are giving advice. I don't give personal training advice because I'm not a personal trainer. Yeah, exactly. So I can advise. I've done lifestyle medicine, and part of functional medicine is lifestyle medicine. So I will take an adrenal test. That's what I'm trained to do. I will take an adrenal test, and I will look at somebody's adrenals, and I can advise on intensity and how much exercise somebody should be doing based on where their health is at. But I won't go and build you an exercise program because I'm not a personal trainer. So, and I think that's where the controversy comes from.
Doesn't it come back to an expression my dad used to say years ago? Ian, if you want to go and buy diamonds, talk to a jeweler, not the bin man. Again, no disrespect to the bin man. Some great, I'm sure, but what he was saying, basically, as we all know, is get the expert.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks like a 1 carat, and it's not gleaning that much. Using diamonds as an example, just an easy example. It could be anything. Yeah. That car, whatever. Yeah. But my dad's viewpoint was simply, the diamond expert can look into that diamond. He can tell you all the flaws. He can tell you its value. Is it really a 1 carat? Is it just only a 1/2 carat, even though it looks nice?
Yeah.
Is it actually nowadays? Is it lab grown, or is it an actual genuine diamond? Be careful where you take your advice from.
Yeah,
I think is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so similar sort of to your dad, I guess. I always say to people, if you've got a leak in the house, are you going to call an electrician in? No, you're going to call a plumber. We call...
That's a better example.
We call somebody very specific. We've got a problem in the house. If your lights go off, you're not going to call the plumber. You're going to call the electrician. We always call somebody very specific when there's a problem with our house. Why do we not do the same thing with our body? And I think that's where functional medicine, and I'm a registered nutritional therapist as well. So I think that's nutrition gets a lot of the same sort of controversy around it, because there are people out there who have done a 6-week course, or they've maybe done nothing, to be fair. Some of them have done no training at all. Some of them have done 6-week course. Some of them have done, 6 months course, but they're not properly qualified. And I think that's where we get a lot of, is it really scientific? I think that's where it comes from, because there's a lot of people who are not scientific who are doing this work when they shouldn't be. And it's really important, I think. So the message I would say around that is, for people around that sort of controversy, is if you go and see a properly registered or certified practitioner, so it's registered if it's nutritional therapy or nutritionist, and certified if you're functional medicine. And if you've got somebody who is registered or certified, you are getting science-based, and it's very heavily based in science. Then, my nutrition degree we did, biochemistry and, these subjects that people don't expect to be in a degree on nutrition. So if you get a proper degree level program, that's the sort of science level that you're doing.
And I didn't want to embarrass you in the introduction, Nicole. You have got a bunch of letters after your name. Anybody just Google Nicole, you can see all of that. Go and check out what those letters mean. She is very, very science led. And, so look, I guess, we've been talking now for 48 minutes. I'm very conscious that you've kindly jumped onto this in between clinic times and everything else that you're managing at the moment. So really, really respectful of that time. I want to pack as much as I can in. But, is there sort of a simple piece of advice that you could say to everyone about their health? If there was a simple piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say, don't wait until you're sick, like really sick, to get help, because that's sick care. That's not health care. And that is what a lot of medicine does these days. It's actually, it's helping people who are already really sick. So my advice would be, if you think something is not quite right, don't accept it as normal. Don't say, oh, it's just age, or it's just because I'm getting a bit older, or it's just because I'm stressed. It's just because I'm tired. It's just because I'm menopausal, which is the one that women always use. Don't put it down to any of those things. If something is not quite right, if you're a bit more fatigued than normal, if you have a bit of brain fog, if you're getting a bit of joint pain, deal with the problem now, because it's much easier to deal with it earlier on than it is to deal with it further down the line. Once you've already got a disease, it's like with the autoimmune diseases. Once you're already further down the line, you've got that autoimmune disease. We can't cure it. There is no cure. So we are pushing you back towards remission. That's the goal all the time, is push down symptoms, push you back to remission. But there's no cure. You have autoimmune disease for the rest of your life. So don't let yourself get there. Those autoantibodies that have been going on in the body, much like they were with me, they can be there for decades, 10, 20 years prior to you getting to the point of having a disease. And if you worked on your health in those 10, 20 years, you would maybe not get to the point of having a disease. So don't wait until you're feeling really sick, because we don't want sick care. We want health care. So if things are not feeling quite right, go out there. Educate yourself, I think, as well, really important, on the options that are out there, and work on bringing your body back to balance.
Beautiful answer. And just to, again, balance the scales, you say there, a lot of women who are menopausal say, it's just me menopause, it's just a fate, it's just a lot of men, classic, there's nothing wrong with me. I'll be all right. No, I'll be all right. Don't like doctors. And yet inside, or emotionally, or often not verbalizing just what they're really suffering with. So great piece of advice. Go seek the right type of advice. Don't put up with it. You don't need to.
Yeah.
And there is a solution. Yeah. You wrote a fantastic book, which is called Optimal You.
Yes.
It's been shortlisted as a finalist for awards.
Yes.
Tell us about it. Yeah. Tell us about it. Where can we buy a copy?
It's everywhere, which is great. It's on Amazon. So it was a 3 times #1 Amazon bestseller, which is great.
Whoa, congratulations.
That's amazing. It's been shortlisted in the wellness and wellbeing category for the Business Book Awards. So the event is in September. So we'll see how it does. But being a finalist and shortlisted is amazing. But it's called Optimal You, Supercharge Your Energy, Strengthen Your Immunity. It really is the core pillars of everything that I do in clinic with people. So it's got the 8 health pillars in there, looking at the different parts of your body. So look at your body as a whole. We're looking at the different parts of your body. It's how each part of the body is interconnected with another. So we look at all those connections in the book of how does one part impact another. So if you are struggling with your brain, you've got brain fog, it will tell you in the brain chapter actually which other chapters do you need to go and look at, which other areas of the body are being impacted by your brain health. So it's all very interconnected. It's very around that functional medicine. It's got the lifestyle aspect in there as well. We mentioned the 4 lifestyle S's, but it's all about optimizing your energy, giving you that sort of vitality and longevity back, looking at that sort of preventative and building that immune resilience, because that's a really important part of the picture. Like we said with the sleep, if you're not sleeping and you've not got cleaning up your immune system and you're not cleaning up your body and getting things working really well, you're going to get sick all the time. So it's all about the 2 things that I think are really key, which is getting that energy up there and then building that immune resilience.
Excellent. I'm going to dash out and buy a copy. I mean that.
Yeah, it's in all bookstores, so it's everywhere. It's Amazon, Waterstones, all your bookstores. It's everywhere, and it's worldwide as well, because I know you have global listeners. So it's in bookstores in America and Germany and Italy and everywhere. So it's all over.
There you go. Go grab a copy. And what I'm hearing here, Nicole, is this piece that really is fascinating me just as much as anything we spoke about today, which is you were ill. You were very ill for over it was 15 years, wasn't it, in total?
Yeah.
And yet, looking at you today, as you stated, as you told us, you still live with an autoimmune disease. Yeah. But you've managed through functional medicine to become well, to live a very, very fulfilled life, lots of energy. And I'm sure sometimes you're a bit stressed and a bit knackered, just like all of us.
Yeah, everybody is.
Just like all of us, right? But there is the living proof, listeners. This isn't somebody who's spinning something out there that hasn't, that's just, a bit of a, what do you call it, snake oil salesperson. This Nicole Goode is the real deal. What's next, Nicole? What's coming up? What are you working on? I'm sure there'll be something.
There's always something. So yeah, there is. So we're looking at launching the Good Health Studio, which will be slightly different to the Good Health Clinic. So Clinic is working with me one-to-one. We're also bringing some other practitioners into Clinic as well. So we're expanding Clinic, which is very exciting. And Excellent. Also launching the Good Health Studio, which is going to have some self-led programs on there so people can learn in their own time, dip the toe in the water.
What is it? Is it an app? Is it online?
It's going to be online. Yeah. So we're going to have it online. It will be, you'll be able to download an app as well to have it on your phone. And yeah, so it's self-led. So people who want to just dip their toe in the water, try functional medicine, see what it's all about. It's sort of going to be an easy way in. And then if people want to work in Clinic afterwards, they can, but the programs will be there and will be standalone. So people will be able to work on their health themselves, much the way I did, but just know they're getting trusted, science-backed advice.
Okay. So the book's out there, your website's out there. We're going to put all these footnotes in the bottom. Is the app live? Can we get it now?
Not yet. That will be coming soon, but it will all be accessible through the website.
Okay. And it's going to be has it got a title that we might be able to just write down and look for in the future, or is that still a work in?
It's going to be called the Good Health Studio. So it's going to go alongside the Good Health Clinic.
There you go. All right. Well, look, I've totally enjoyed this time together. I think you've certainly educated me. You debunked a lot of myths, and thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. We've spoke about how people can find you. Is there a final thought that you might have, like, for us all to just ponder on and go, have a cup of tea and think about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably, I guess my hope is that functional medicine will become more tied in with conventional medicine. It's not either or. And I think it should work together. And my hope for the future for that is that it will be more integrative. But I think the key to that is people doing their own homework and finding functional medicine and telling their doctors that they're working with functional medicine practitioners and that they're doing this work. But hopefully the whole system becomes more integrative and we get conventional and functional working alongside each other. Because I truly believe that's what's best for the patient.
Excellent. Thank you. One last time, title of the book, Optimal You. What's the next bit of it?
Supercharge your energy, strengthen your immunity.
By Nicole Goode. Okay. Thank you so much. Nicole, I wish you health, happiness, and abundance, but above all, great health. Thank you so much for your time today, and probably bump into you again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.